There's a difference between knowing the path and walking it. And after spending time on this channel trying to share the things I've learned on my journey through dynamics in hope that it could help others, I myself have failed to follow my own teachings. I'm not beating myself up about it, but I've decided to make this video today in hopes that from my own experience, you can improve yours as you vet and look for the right partners to enter into dynamics with. I want to talk about the still small voice inside us all. That intuition that is so very subtle, yet holds the keys to giving us what we truly want. It can get hard to hear and even harder to follow that small voice. And looking back over what lasted 9 weeks, I realized that I could have avoided putting time, energy, money, and my own heart into something that wasn't even what I really wanted. Yes, I spent 9 weeks getting to know and vetting a potential slave. It came to an end almost before it started. And what I ignored wasn't one red flag. It was a pattern. And my intuition kept tapping me on the shoulder every time I chose excitement over truth. I met her on a kink app, and she contacted me, and right there at the outset was the first time my intuition spoke up. And the thing about intuition is it doesn't argue with you. When you ignore it, it just simply waits and lets reality finish the conversation. From the moment we began talking, I saw her picture. Now, I'm not going to say anything derogatory about her pic. It's not that she was ugly or weird looking, but she didn't seem to be my type. Some of you might be faulting me for saying this, saying perhaps that I shouldn't judge a book by its cover. I'll be honest with you. That's exactly why I kept talking with her. I'm not one to shun someone for how they look, but I also know who I am and what I want. And one of the things I truly want when it comes to a slave I may own is a person who I'm physically attracted to. I wasn't. And if I had listened to that first thing right off the bat, I could have stopped things when the conversation turned to the idea of building a dynamic together. I could have kept the encounters over the next 9 weeks from swaying toward us actually building something, and instead could have simply allowed her to become another friend or an acquaintance. But I didn't listen. I allowed myself to be swept up in the excitement of everything, because everything else seemingly pointed towards something being right. So, as is its way, my intuition receded because I have free will. We began talking off and on throughout the day, throughout text and phone. Hours upon hours were stacking up. We were growing closer. I really liked this girl, and what she desired seemed to line up with what I wanted. About a week into talking throughout each day with her, the still small voice inside me reared its quiet little head again when she sent me the first live picture of her. She looked completely different. It was shocking. The picture that I had seen didn't even look like the same person. So I asked her about it, and she replied, "Oh, the pic on the app is about 6 years old." My intuition perked up. I didn't feel comfortable with someone misrepresenting themselves in such a way. I would never post a pic that is 6 effing years old on an app. If I were to do that, you'd see a very different looking man, because back then I had a beard down to here and much longer hair, and honestly, it bothered me that she had done this. But again, my excitement for everything else going so well caused me to again quiet my inner voice and venture forward. Over the next 4 or 5 weeks, things began to look better and better, and she couldn't contain her excitement. She would recount many conversations that she'd been having with friends and family who noticed that she was excited, and it warmed my heart to hear them. There were times in her recounting of these conversations that I had a gut instinct that the conversation didn't really happen quite the way she was recounting it. Now, look, anyone who knows me will let you know, embellishments happen. I didn't judge her for this, but I really wanted to make sure that the info she was sharing with me was an accurate account of what happened as can be, So she told me something her dad had supposedly texted her mom about me. The wording didn't sound right to me. He was completely vanilla, and it didn't sound like something someone with no experience in BDSM would ever say. I stopped her and I asked, Did he really say that? And she goes, yes, and claimed that her mom had sent her a picture of the screenshot. Well, what he said was positive, so I asked her to send it to me. And suddenly, she couldn't. Phone issues, excuses. Meanwhile, she had no trouble sending me other screenshots all the time. That quiet voice inside of me said, this doesn't add up. And once again, I chose to keep going anyway because I have free will. Over the next few weeks, I kept asking for that screenshot. Each time she had an excuse. Eventually, I started to suspect it never even existed, but I told myself it was just embellishment and not outright lying. I rationalized it, and I chose to believe her, and I ignored the still small voice inside me. Look, guys, I was excited. Everything else was going so well. I even started working on our contract. She was telling me everything I wanted to hear, that I was the only one, that she wanted to give herself fully to me. And looking back, it's embarrassing how badly I wanted it to be real. But I'm grateful it didn't go any farther than it did. And then came the implosion. New Year's Eve was approaching, and I thought it would be really beautiful to present the contract to her in person. So I planned a trip out to see her. The plan was to celebrate New Year's Eve together. She lives about a state away from me. I planned the trip. I worked for hours and hours on the contract and her rules list, and I went out there. We got to know each other in person and had a wonderful time going through the contract together the night before New Year's Eve. It was a beautiful evening, even though I had ignored the voice of God inside me. The next day, the morning of New Year's Eve, I thought of that screenshot and I commanded her to show it to me on her phone. My thought being, if I saw it, I'd be happy. And if it finally came out that it was an embellishment, then we'd have that conversation. And then she did something that felt completely out of character for her in that entire time I had known her. She tossed her phone on the couch and said, "Here, go find it." That didn't fit the contract we just signed or the way she'd been interacting with me for the last 9 weeks. But I'm patient, sometimes to a fault, and yes, apparently I'm still an idiot. I reminded her that when I give a simple command, she obeys. She doesn't toss the phone at me. She stood her ground and told me to open it and look for it myself. At that moment, it stopped being about obedience and became about trust. I was irritated, but not angry, and the still small voice inside me got louder. So I had her give me her password and opened her phone. She had a lot of folders on her home screen, so it wasn't readily apparent where her camera roll was, but I did see 2 unanswered text notifications. I had just been literally told by her to go through her phone, so I started there. Some of you might have predicted this, but the first unanswered text said, "Good morning, baby." The second said, "Hi, baby." I clicked on the first text and then scrolled up, and I realized that all the way up until now, even the day before, while I had been flying out to see her, she'd continued having conversations with other doms and masters, and she was telling them the same things she'd been telling me. My heart broke. But the one positive thing that came of that moment was that the still small voice was suddenly booming in my ears. She was a liar. And if someone can't be honest, it is generally not something that you can teach somebody unless they want to learn how to do it, how to be honest. And I looked at her and I started asking about these texts I was reading. I started to read them out loud to her. She sat on the couch and started falling apart. She covered her face as I told her it was over before it started. I told her calmly and quietly that I cannot believe anything she has said or will say now. I asked her if she thought I was being unreasonable, and she admitted through her tears I was not. After a few hours of her talking to me and trying to get me to keep her, she realized I wouldn't budge and left, and I spent New Year's Eve in a town I'd never been in, all alone. My point to telling you all this is it all could have been avoided if I'd paid attention to what I truly wanted and not settled. In that moment, I didn't choose to walk away because I was strong. I walked away because I finally listened. And when you listen to who you truly are, walking away from what isn't aligned becomes obvious and, in a lot of ways, effortless. I hope this has helped somebody. If you want to dig deeper or have something to share, comment below. Give me a call. All the info's below. My name is Jeremy. Believing you'll find freedom in the bondage you choose. See you next time.